Use of skills here. Today we're going to talk about the film industry in general and how it's in a little bit of a decline, even though I thought it was going up, but I feel like it's going down, and what it's like. The last video, hopefully I uploaded before this one, was about the decline of Marvel / Disney and their animation, as well as Pixar, and obviously the MCU. So I go to the theaters a lot. I love going to the movie theaters. When I first started going to the movie theaters when I was a kid, one of the first movies I remember watching surprisingly for some reason, Titanic. And I think I went with my whole family. And at that point, I don't think my mom and dad knew, about like the sex scene, the naked scene, and like the drawings and all that other stuff. But yeah, so and my mom made me cover my eyes for those parts. I think I remember. And then when they came out, they were like these two big VHSs that I rewatched over and over again because I really liked the movie. But yeah, so and then James Cameron as well as Martin Scorsese have recently come out against like superhero movies and stuff like that. And I mean, I wouldn't say against. I guess it technically is against, but basically they're saying how they're event movies, like they're roller coaster movies. They're not like art or whatever, kinda, I guess, or that's what I interpreted what they meant, which I disagree with, but there's nothing I can do about it. But I still like their films, and they're still great directors and stuff. It's just frustrating when they can't admit that like, for example, Black Panther to me was arts, and I felt what I felt watching Black Panther, and I rewatched Black Panther, and it was one of the first Blu-rays that I bought in a long time for a movie because I wanted to rewatch it over and over again in my house. This is before Disney Plus, so it wasn't like you could just go on Disney Plus. But that streaming, that's another thing we also got to talk about. Anyway, point is, I really love movies, right? I'm from the Bronx. There's a couple theaters. There's one on Grand Concourse, and then there's an AMC in Bay Plaza, and there was the Whitestone, which doesn't exist anymore. But if you're from the Bronx, these movie theaters have very, let's call it, lax security. So when I was younger, not so young that I had to go with my parents, but when I was a teen and I was able to go to the movies on my own, I would sneak into a bunch of theaters and just, all day, just go in for one and then sneak into other ones all day and just watch a bunch of movies all day. And that was like the most fun I ever had, me and my friends. Then I became friends with the people that worked at some of these theaters, and they let me in, and they, we watch movies, sometimes on their breaks and stuff like that, or I get discounts. And but yeah, it was fun times, and I always had a great experience in the movie theater. When I was a kid, obviously it was me being a lot more louder and a lot more interactive than I should have because I'm not even supposed to be there, and getting kicked out of theaters. Like, I remember all these things. And now, as an adult, or not recently, as I've been going to the movie theaters as an adult, paying for theaters and stuff like that, I do travel across the bridge to Jersey to the more, let's say, the quieter theaters. I sometimes go downtown, but most of the time it's like across the bridge to Jersey or up to like Portchester, because the ambiance is a little bit quieter, than the city is a little bit loud. But recently I went to go see Five Nights at Freddy's with my daughter at the Harlem Theater, the Magic Johnson Harlem Theater. And it was really cool to show her like all the the black actors and actresses and stuff that they have in that theater, and like where they come from, and like entertainers as well, like that they had all over the place. And it was cool to like give her the history of all these stuff, and to have all these things there presented. It's really cool. It's an okay looking theater, but obviously when you get in there's a bunch of kids that just got out of school, and a bunch of kids that just live around the area, and basically they're like me. They either snuck in, or this is their third time watching this movie, so they're talking through the whole thing. So there was a lot of like interruptions and talking and loudness while we were watching Five Nights at Freddy's. But for some reason, that enhanced the experience of this movie. That's why I feel like I gave it such a higher score, because I have a lot of people telling me, hey, that movie, Five Nights at Freddy, you gave it a 5 out of 5, and it wasn't, I don't think it was fun. I'm like, not really, but like the experience for me was a 5 out of 5, Watching it again at home, Obviously, I could see the glaring problems with it. Even when I saw it in theaters, I saw the glaring problems with it. But it was a fun time at the theaters, so I gave it a higher score because of it. And it shouldn't have been fun because, again, people were talking throughout the whole thing, throwing stuff, just being loud and rambunctious. But it was fun because I hadn't experienced that in a while, like that level of stuff. And again, it goes with the kind of movie that it was. If this was like a more serious movie, yeah, I might have been upset. Like if we're watching Oppenheimer and people are talking and yelling and throwing things, I'll be like, that's kind of upsetting. But yeah. Anyway, point is, I really like going to the movies. I love the movie-going experience. And this is why even in my channel, if you guys go back, I talk about the AMC A-List and how I would much rather you guys get the A-List subscription, which is now more or less like a regular subscription to Netflix or something like that. And you guys can actually go to the theaters and watch these movies in the big screen. I understand that it's, not everybody has the privilege to go at all times, even myself included. I have kids. It's difficult for me to plan when I can go to the theater and who's going to watch my kids or whatever when I have to go, right? So, but I just want to start off by saying, if you can, AMC A-List is $20 a month. It might be even cheaper depending on, it might be more expensive or cheaper depending on where you are in America. But literally, it doesn't go higher than, I think, 30 or 26. It doesn't go higher than $26 a month, and for like the highest tier of the AMC A-List. And you can go to any AMC and, again, watch 3 movies a week and support your local theater. Now, AMC is obviously a very big theater chain. I myself have certain problems with the theater chain, but they are, at least, if they do well, other movie theaters will do well. Like if people start going more, eventually it'll start happening more. And I feel like the reason that I'm bummed is because I haven't gone to see the Marvels yet, right? But I'm planning on it, and I'm talking to my friends, and I'm like, hey, let's go, whatever. And they're like, yeah, they don't want to go. Like, they don't want to go to the movie theater. And I'm like, hey, I got your ticket, don't worry. And they're like, no, it doesn't matter, don't want to go. And it's like, why not? They're like, oh, because it's loud. It's going to be on Disney Plus eventually, like in a couple months or in a couple weeks. And, it's like there's no reason. Plus, the MCU has been declining, basically they're not excited for the movie, right? So that kind of sucks, because if a movie like The Marvels, right, an MCU big budget, boom-bastic movie is not getting enough people to go to the theater, regular movies like the movie that I had here initially, Beau is Afraid, is not going to get anybody in there. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because Beau is Afraid is from one of my new favorite directors, Ari Aster, who he made Hereditary, which I loved when that came out. And from then on, I went to go see his shorts that he did on YouTube, and I love some of them. Some of them are really disturbing. And then he did Midsommar, which I didn't like so much, but I didn't know he did The Witch, actually. Did he do The Witch? Is that why people search for The Witch? No, okay, no. He did Hereditary and Midsommar. Okay, good. Because I did not like The Witch. I know a lot of people did, and I didn't really like it that much. But anyway, so he did Hereditary, which was like one of my favorite, it is still one of my favorite recent horror movies. And it lives rent-free in my brain. I watch it all the time as much as I can. And it's another movie that, again, I got the Blu-ray of just because. Like I got the actual physical copy of this movie just because I want to rewatch it over and over again whenever I can, even though it is still on some streaming services. But yeah, so Beau is Afraid is like his third movie, and it's with a studio called A24, which we will talk about. And they don't really give a lot of money to their projects. Like, they're usually known for having very low budgets but big returns, because what they make is very original and very art house driven. Like, a lot of people go see it because of word of mouth and stuff like that. For example, one of the other big ones that they made, which we'll talk about a bunch of them, but Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? So Everything Everywhere All at Once had a budget of, let's see here, $25 million, right? Exactly why it would be where they were. Made on a relatively modest budget of $25 million. That's how much Everything Everywhere All at Once cost to make, and it made $141.2 million, right? Whereas the story for Beau is Afraid is a little bit different. So because Ari Aster made, Midsommar, and it did so well, and Hereditary, which did amazing, again on a low budget, they gave him a higher budget to make Beau is Afraid, because they assumed if his audience, his people that like his movies are there, they would come show up for the new one, right? So Beau is Afraid had a budget of $35 million, and it only made about 11.5 worldwide. So it didn't really even make its budget. It flopped technically, and it's a really good movie. It's interesting. It's weird, and it's funny at times. It's scary at times. It's a very not easily marketable movie, right? So I feel like not a lot of people went to see it because they were confused by either the marketing or the trailers or whatever. And also, they might not have seen Hereditary, or they might not have seen Midsommar, right? So they don't know that this director is a really good director and he makes really good films that are interesting, right? So, but, nobody knew that about Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like, I doubt that you guys will know that the Daniel brothers, the ones that made Everything Everywhere All at Once, they made another movie with Daniel Radcliffe. What is the name of that movie? Here I am failing. This other movie called Swiss Army Man, which was also really fun and really great. And so like I said, a lot of these directors make good movies. They don't really have a following, let's say, or they have a small following. But then when they make another movie, if it's not as marketable, not a lot of people show up. At least that's what I feel like happened with Beau is Afraid. So now, I feel like horror is our way out of this slump. But basically, due to Barbie and Oppenheimer not technically being original, films, but not being part of like a franchise stuff and making so much money, is because they were an event film, right? Another one that was an event film this year was Five Nights at Freddy's. Five Nights at Freddy's had a budget of $20 million, and they've made so far $252 million worldwide. So they're definitely making more of Five Nights at Freddy's, right? Horror movies are historically, they're like easy to make. Not easy to make as in it's easy to make a horror film. It's more like they're very low budget productions. You don't need a lot to make a good horror film. But in horror films, I feel like people are taking the chance, especially studios like A24, to give original filmmakers their way in to the industry. So this is what I think will happen going forward with horror. So, for example, Emma Tammy, I think that's her name, Emma Tammy, the director of Five Nights at Freddy's, I think this is her first, like, really major big film release. And it was okay. It was very well helmed. It wasn't bad at all, I don't think. So, I think from this she will get more work, more things to do, and show her original, creator vision or whatever with her own projects. But, who's going to check that out? Did you even know that Emma Tammy made Five Nights at Freddy's, right? And let me just to be sure that I'm saying her name right. Director of FNAF movie. Right, Emma Tammy. So, do you even, are you going to check out Emma Tammy's next film, right? This is what I'm talking about, where it's like, now that we have the advent of the internet, these people, right, the writers, the directors, sometimes the producers, should get a little bit more famous, right? Kevin Feige, everybody knows because of his success with the MCU, but that took, 6 or 7 movies in for people to be like, oh, Kevin Feige is a household name now because of the 7 successful movies. Yeah, that's how long it took. Steven Spielberg, same. Martin Scorsese, like all these guys had to make countless good films in order for you guys to actually be like, oh, okay, yeah, Steven Spielberg, household name. Like this is what it is, to be a good director and all this stuff. Now, they also took chances, Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, they all have films that are duds that, even Martin Scorsese's recent film, The Killers of the Flower Moon, great movie, great production, great cast, all these other things. But it was a dud at the box office because not a lot of people want to go see a 3.5-hour movie about something that's, again, not very marketable, right? It's also not an event film. So I think with horror, we can start making horror things event films, right? Like Five Nights at Freddy's. To me, Talk to Me was an event film for me, right? It was a budget of $4.5 million, and it made $91.3 million worldwide in the box office, allegedly. So that's very good. You know, like they're basically going to make probably another Talk to Me Too if these directors want to do another one. And these guys are from YouTube. This is their first real venture into making a feature film. They've made films for YouTube and stuff like that. So they've always been making films, but this is like their first feature film, and it's like it's original, it's fun, it's entertaining, and yeah, it's in the horror genre. But I feel like that's where, like for me, for example, before I used to go to like A24 and other places to look for like not so known movies that also like shocked and or made me laugh or whatever, right? Now it's like there's not a lot of studios making these kinds of movies. They're making, very safe choices, very commercial choices, and that's also why I'm kind of afraid of what's happening with A24, because in order to expand, they want to produce more commercial films, which I get. They want to make more money, but they are making money on their indie films, like literally twice or triple. If your budget is 4.5 and you made 91.3, that's pretty good. But when you give someone 35 million and you only get 11 in return, yeah, that's pretty bad. Like, you have to eat that cost, and I understand it's pretty bad. And again, this is not even taking into account the marketing and stuff like that. But it's just, they have to expand, and I understand they have to go commercial. But these are places that I go to for movies that are usually, Blumhouse was another one initially that not initially. I still kind of think they have their stuff. They have their good movies here and there. Like Megan, for example, was okay. I really liked it, and it was kind of original. It was very Chucky-esque, but it was still an original film. James Wan was involved, and a low budget made a lot of money. So they're definitely making a second one, but it was still entertaining. It was still original enough that I had fun at the theater. And there's another movie coming out recently about Thanksgiving, and I think it's like Eli Roth, of the Hostel fame, and it looks like a slasher film. It just looks like a regular slasher film. I don't know if it's going to do any good horror film in November, but who knows? And if it's a good movie, then word of mouth, like I said, we'll get it out there, because there's not a lot of movies coming out this month anyway. What else? The biggest horror movies of the last 3 years have made and have been, I feel, groundbreaking and original, and pushing the limits of what it means to be even a film, not just a horror film, right? Talk to Me, like I said, is up there. Skinamarink, it's literally just you're in a house, it's nighttime, there's like whispers and sounds and stuff, and then these two kids, there's generally a story there, but it's like very piecemeal, very put together. Skinamarink is like something that I would watch on YouTube at like 3 a.m. for no reason, and now that's a movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. Smile, I really liked. X, Pearl, Nope. I don't know if it did well, but that's another, Get Out, and also reinvented the genre of horror and what horror could mean. Barbarian, Terrifier 2. These are all great movies that, and the Black Phone, they're not that expensive to make, and they're able to, again, break new ground in horror. The Invisible Man, that itself could have been an event film. Freaky, and all these the guys that made Freaky are the guys that made Happy Birthday to You. That was another way to like reinvent Groundhog Day and make it horror. It's fun stuff. But yeah, let me see what else. This I already talked about. AMC A-list, like I said, please get. So this is the other thing that compacts into what I'm worried about. So the industry suffered obviously because of the strike, and to their own right, the studios deserve that shit, because people deserve to be paid a livable wage, and because of the economy and because of livable wages right now, not a lot of people are going to the theaters because they can't afford to go to the theaters. It's very expensive to go to the theaters, and things continue to rise, not only going to the theaters, but even just streaming services. So people decide where to watch their stuff, when to watch their stuff. So that's why, like I said, I was very upset that I couldn't go to the theaters with my boys, because they're like, hey man, we're just going to watch it on Disney Plus when it comes out. So it's like, I get that that's the cost that they're already paying for. So when it gets there, it's, but then the studios are going to lose money. They're going to continue to push ads and ad tiers, and the ad-free tier is going to continue to go climbing up and up and up, and you had a whole video about that in the streaming rant. But basically, they're going to try to make money any way they can, and they're going to cut costs any way they can. One of them is no longer selling physical media. So Best Buy will no longer carry physical movies in 2024, and it's not probably the only service that's going to do that. Amazon, Walmart, all these other places are probably going to follow suit. Target, because if they're not making any money off of it, then there's no reason for them to have a whole aisle or section, or even just take up space, or for them to pay to carry these things, because they have to pay to carry it, because obviously they're going to pay it, they're going to give it to you, the consumer, and that's how they make up their cost. But nobody's buying them, so there's no reason for them to have it, which is the issue. And it's really sad, because right now we have companies like Warner Brothers who is just canceling movies and deleting shows from services, right? So they have HBO Max, and this is back in, I think, 2022. In August 2022, HBO Max quietly removed 36 titles from its platform. They included movies like Moonshot, which was not that long ago that it came out, and I actually really had fun watching Moonshot because it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous movie, but that's what makes it fun. The Witches, Superintelligence, there's other things that they're just taking away. They're not telling anybody, not warning anyone, they're just gone. It's not like, oh, next month this. No, it's just gone. And it's so that they don't have to pay residuals to people. And then now that the strike is over, and the agreements from the studios is to pay these people higher residuals and to be more transparent and to show their numbers, I feel like this issue is going to spread to other services, right? I think Netflix got rid of Hush recently. Hush is just gone. Sometimes they do this where it's like Hush will be gone, like they'll take some stuff off for a couple months, and then like maybe like during October or whatever, like they'll bring it back. But this is ridiculous. Like, and then they don't sell physical copies of this thing. So like their DVD tier, if you got the DVD for Hush, so I don't know if that exists, but if you did, that's the only way that you could actually have a physical version of a Netflix copy of something. A lot of these places, HBO Max, for example, you can't download stuff off of their platform. You can download stuff, and then it's just on your thing for, I think, 2 days or whatever, or like 24 hours. I forgot. It's 24 to like 48 hours for you to watch it, and then it's just gone, like back to the service. So you download it, and it's for nothing, because it's not really even downloaded, because you have to even be logged in and have an account with them in order to watch it. It's not like you're downloading it off of their platform, even though there's ways to do that, but I'm not going to touch on that. Either way, the point is, they're deleting things off of their streaming services, right? We're not going to be able to find certain shows, certain like little even niche things that maybe it wasn't very popular, but you liked. You're not going to find that anymore, because you just axed it, deleted it from their service. Then they have the balls to have signed contracts to pay people to make a product, right? Like Batgirl, for example, and then just scrap it, delete it, not ever going to be released. Nobody's ever going to see this movie that's finished, that's edited, that's ready to go, could have been in theaters yesterday, could have been on HBO Max today, and no one's going to see this movie because they just decided to write it off and just cancel it. And if they sell it, I assume there's like a different, like they have to do a different thing, which is now like, for example, with Coyote versus Acme, which was apparently a really good movie. People really liked it. It was co-written by James Gunn. It has John Cena starring in it. And still they were like, nah, cancel it. And now it's uncanceled technically because enough people said a bunch of shit. So now they're going to basically sell it to another studio because they want to get that money back still. So they're basically, whatever money they spent on it, they want to get that money back, plus, whatever extra they would have made if they did release it. So I don't understand why they just fucking release it and then try to sell it off. I don't know. Anyway, point is, this is the stuff that they're doing. And I feel like, I mean, if I were a filmmaker or if I were an actor or, any type of creative, I wouldn't want to sign contracts with Warner Brothers knowing that this is the type of a way that they conduct their business. And then on top of that, the way that they treat the people that created these things as if they're not even a thought. They're numbers. This is all business. And I understand this is a business, obviously. But initially, the point is to entertain, and the point is to express yourself artistically. And if you're not even able, like you gave your soul, you did your thing, you acted, or you made the coyote look a certain way, or you did whatever you did for this movie, you edited it perfectly, you produced it, you did whatever, and it's not being released. This is just the worst. Okay. So now, the top 20 best horror films over the past 3 years, and I'll tell you, as I said, most of them made a lot of money, right? So this is back in the day. So this year alone, it says A Quiet Place grossed $328 million. Hereditary is already north of $55 million and counting. Truth or Dare, which was not a good movie, more than $90 million. Insidious: The Last Key, which is also not a good movie, scored $167 million. In the previous 2 years, it took $700 million, and Annabelle Creation topped $306 million. Get Out sailed north of $255 million. Alien Covenant crossed $240 million. Lights Out, which was actually pretty good. I liked Lights Out. Finished just a tad south of $150 million. The Conjuring 2, which was good, took an impressive $320 million. And Don't Breathe, which was great, amassed $157 million, right? So, yeah, look at that update. I had not yet seen Hereditary when I wrote this article, but subsequently watched it and consider it easily one of the best horror films of the past 3 years. So it would have replaced one of the other films, including it on my list. So yeah, 100%. It definitely 100% is one of the best horror films. Okay, so then this is like the list without Hereditary. So don't even count Hereditary. I don't know why The Witch is on here. I hope The Witch would have been replaced. Don't Breathe, great. Mother, great. Lights Out, It Follows. It Follows is so good, and I know so many people that haven't even heard of this movie, and I don't even know. I think it's on Showtime, maybe Showtime, Paramount Plus, but it's like nobody knows where to find these things either. That's the other thing. It Comes at Night, The Girl with All the Gifts, A Quiet Place, Get Out, Raw, Train to Busan, great film. Like all these films split. Like all these films were not that expensive to make. And all of them probably doubled their budget, Ouija: Origin of Evil, so good. What a great sequel, let's say, because goddamn, it did so much better than the original. So all these films, and they're all different. They're all horror, but they're all different versions of horror. Just going down the list. This is about not really a possession, but kind of, I guess. It's satanic stuff, kind of. Witchcraft, definitely. Don't Breathe is about a break-in, and then it's a blind guy, and these guys are breaking into this blind guy's house, and the blind guy, not even seeing them, hears them, smells them, like uses all the other senses, and he's a menace to these guys. Mother, it's complicated. I'm not gonna go into it that much. Lights Out is very that's a more regular horror film about a demon or some kind of ghost or something, where you turn the lights out, it's there, you turn the lights on, it's not there. It Follows is, again, a little bit more complicated, but it's basically like you're being stalked by something that looks like people, and you get this you get it by basically having sex with somebody else. So it's like a play on a sexually transmitted disease, kind of, and other things. But yeah, It is about, obviously, a killer clown that's not a killer clown. It's actually a turtle alien thing. It Comes at Night is like basically all these, like A Quiet Place is about, it's again, the gimmick, the thing about these, like It Follows, like I said, is about sexually transmitted disease, technically, right? But on the face value, when you watch it, you wouldn't really get that right away. Well, you might get it right away, but most people will just be like, oh, it's a horror movie. A Quiet Place, it's like super silent the entire movie for the most part. People speak in sign language. There's, a deaf character. There's monsters. Yes, it's like an alien invasion in a way. And it just takes it in a different way that you wouldn't think an alien invasion would be taken. You know what I mean? Get Out, also very creepy, atmospheric, not in the way that you would expect, a small town horror, thing to go. Train to Busan it literally is just putting zombies on a train and then boom, or yeah, Die Hard on a train. It's literally that, and it's so good, and you wouldn't expect it to be. You know, Split. It's a horror movie about this guy who has split personality, and he's holding these girls captive, and they don't know who they're dealing with from time to time. It's so good, and again, different. All of these very different movies in the last 3 years, pushing the genre of horror and pushing what you can do with storytelling, that it leaves me in awe and leaves me, happy every time I leave the theater and watch these movies on the big screen. Now, can you find any of these movies in streaming services? Probably different ones, and they're probably not even the first movie that you'll see at the forefront of any of these services, right? Except maybe, of course, Shudder, because that's all about horror films. But I feel like the way forward for these studios that are making these commercial, like MCU, for example, Werewolf at Night from Disney, from Marvel, was one of the better things that they created that went straight to Disney Plus. I feel like better than their shows, most of their shows, better than any of the stuff that they really put on Disney Plus is that. And it's technically a horror or in the horror genre. And I feel like they should push more for that. I know they're trying to be family friendly and all this other stuff, and then most of the horror stuff they push to Hulu. Like I reviewed the No One Will Save You, right, which is an alien invasion movie, but not an alien. It is, but again, it's a play on alien invasion. But it's like all of these things that they have, Prey, like all these things that they have, they could be pushing forward and actually selling and actually making money, but they don't take the chance in theaters. You know what I mean? They put them on streaming, or they put them in theaters for like a couple days, a couple weeks, and then boom, it's gone, and nobody even heard about them. Their campaigns for their ads aren't as big, and I feel like that for them is the way that we can push event movies going forward. Like, this is an event. Like, for example, I might want to make this, Eli Roth, I keep talking about it, so let me just pull it up. I might give this Thanksgiving Eli Roth movie a chance, just because it might bring, it'll be like another movie that my boys could come get together. I don't know what streaming service is going to be on, so, we can't be like, hey, it's going to be on streaming service in like a couple weeks. It might still, but I don't know which one, and because I don't really know what studio makes it, but we're not looking forward to that. We're looking forward to going to go see this movie, seeing if it's good or not. Maybe it's bad. We'll have fun if it's bad. Maybe we'll have fun if it's good. Who knows? But this is the thing about going to the theaters and doing things that, like, just an experiment like this is fun. It's fun enough. And I'm glad they're taking a chance. I don't know what else to say. Point is, I hope that A24 is able to make enough money to continue to thrive how they're thriving, and continue to make the things that are original, even if they don't make them that much money, unfortunately. And I know that's not a good business model, but, even if they'd make commercial films, sure, make commercial films, but make them still as original if you can. And I know it's difficult because that's the whole point. If anybody could do it, everybody would do it. But if you can make commercial films as original as the films that you are making, I would love that, because I'm a big fan of A24 and what they're doing, and I'm a big fan of other small studios as well and what they're doing. That's pretty much it. This has been a Useless Skill. Hope you guys like this. Subscribe, and again, if you can, I know I'm a pain in the ass, but go to your local theater, support your local theater. I understand the streaming is there, but tomorrow those things might not be there. Right? Streaming services right now are eating each other. And if one eats the other, then who knows if they're going to keep the stuff that you thought was cool about that service might not be on that service. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down below what you think. And this has been a Useless Skill.